And Bob is going to be talking to you about your responsibilities in managing local, state, and federal funds.
All right, the title that Clyde gave me was managing your local funds, responsibility in that, but I really believe this is a little bit of a misnomer. I believe it's going to be a discussion on what happens if you mismanage your local funds, what happens if theft, fraud, or embezzlement does occur. What I am going to talk to you about is what the state board will do in a district that has embezzlement, fraud, or theft. It's not what we can do, it's what we will do. Okay, first off, I want you to remember the jurisdiction for theft in a local board, because generally that local board has the office in a USDA building, an NRCS building. The jurisdiction for investigating that particular incident is not your local police department, it is not your local sheriff's department. It resides with the state board, which we do not have law authority, but we use USDA Office of Inspector General. They are federal marshals. They are licensed to go any place in the United States, and they have complete authority over anything that happens in their jurisdiction. We can also use the Texas Rangers in Texas. We have used them one time. I'm going to tell you about 4 or 5 cases and 2 that have just recently popped up. What I will tell you, we do not have any slides for you. We do not have anything in your folder on this because all of this stuff is legal. We've gone through the court systems. What I will tell you is public record in the court system. When I get to the last 2 cases, I will be very general in what I tell you on those because they're still under investigation. If in your district you think that fraud, embezzlement, or theft has occurred, contact your field rep. Your local field rep will come in, talk to you, show them what you think has happened, and then that field rep will notify the state board, and then in turn they will notify me. I'm the fraud investigator for the state board when it comes to any theft in the districts. After I had discussed it with the field rep, generally I will call the chairman of the board, visit with them to make sure it is not just somebody that is mad at a secretary, NRCS person's mad at a secretary, secretary's mad at NRCS, board member, and we can actually see some type of evidence that theft has occurred. We will call OIG. Once it is turned over to OIG, it is basically taken out of our hands. We consult with them all the time. They talk to us. We're at the meetings with them. We're in their investigation. They tell us what all they have done. But OIG takes over the case. They will begin an in-depth investigation. They will generally, and every time they have come to the office and has looked at everything in the office. And a lot of times what they will do when they come to these offices, they will go through all of your financial records. They will go through your computers. They will go through NRCS computers. They will take, at the end of their investigation in that office, they will take all of your minutes. They will take all of your financial records. They will take all of your bank statements. They will take anything in that office that they feel is pertinent to that investigation. They will take your laptop computer, and in most of these cases, they have taken the NRCS computers. Now, I will talk about that in a little bit. We are encouraging the districts to not put your financial records on an NRCS computer. Some instances you do have that. We have a program, and I'll go over that in a little bit. But get your financial records off of the NRCS computers. All right, generally after they have come in, they will want to have an emergency board meeting. Kendria talked about an emergency board meeting. We will file that, post the agenda, and it will be personnel or theft, fraud, put on there what it is. We need all 5 directors in that emergency meeting. And the 2 or 3 cases that we had called the directors in, we have been very adamant about whatever you're doing, you drop what you're doing and come to that emergency board meeting. Also on that emergency meeting, you will post that it will be an executive session, because what will be discussed in that board meeting is the theft, fraud, or the embezzlement. You will have a closed meeting. You will keep the minutes or record it, whatever. OIG will tell you what they have found in their preliminary investigation. They will go over with you what they are going to do, how they're going to do about it. And then you need to have those minutes sealed, because it is an ongoing investigation, and that's why you need to go into an executive session. All right, once they take this stuff, it will take, in some instances, up to 2 years before you get that back. And the reason for that is OIG not only just works our smaller cases, which is a small amount of money, they work anything in USDA that has to do with fraud and embezzlement. And that includes everything from food stamps to rent on some of these low housing income places, FSA, you name it. And they've got really bigger fish to fry, so we're very fortunate OIG has agreed to work with us. Some things you need to watch for in case, if you think that you might have a problem, look for a late audit. And this is something that the field reps look to. You're supposed to turn in a financial statement, compilation, or an audit every year before, I think, December 1, I think is the date on that. If that audit comes in late, we're going to look to see why that came in late. If you, in your monthly meetings, get a vague financial report for several months in a row, that is a big indicator of what could happen, or there's a possibility of fraud in your case. Go back and look at your financial statement. And then if you have an unexpected or a quick resignation of an employee, just all of a sudden everything seems to be okay, they walk in 1 month and say, hey, I'm quitting. They don't give you a good reason for it. Look at that. And what we're recommending on a case like that is, if an employee, even if it's the middle of the year or whatever, you do an audit back to your last audit to make sure that the books are okay. This not only protects you as a board, it protects the next employee that you get, because if you get 2 or 3 employees in there and the books are all messed up, everybody can point a finger at somebody else. So when you change employees, check your books. Okay, I'm going to talk to you about 4 cases that we have prosecuted. I'll talk to you about one that will not be prosecuted, and the reason for that, and then also 2 of the cases that we're looking at right now. Okay, these started back around 2000, and in 2000 is when the state board really got serious about fraud and embezzlement. That is when Rex Eisen took over as executive director. We had a rash of them to start off with in that year, and we're very serious about the situation. This particular case, and I'm not going to tell you where they are now, I will tell you where this one is because the chairman of the board is here. It's in Farmville, Texas. And he has just given me job security for the last 17 years because their board is the one that started this, and I happened to be in the wrong place at the right time, so I got to be the fraud investigator. In this particular case, the lady stole $3,800. This board has always been real good about checking their financial records. They use an outside CPA every year to go over their books. The lady is excellent. She does an excellent job. But what happened in this particular case, and this lady was the wife of the youth director of the Baptist church. They wound up close to the end of the fiscal year. She was short on some funds. She thought she could borrow some funds from the district, and before the end of the fiscal year, replace those funds and everything would be okay. Once those funds were taken, those funds were never replaced. The auditor caught it. OIG came in, and this is the first one that we had, so the local police department was called. They came in, put police tape up all around the USDA building. I mean, it was just a circus. They found out in a hurry they did not have the jurisdiction there, so OIG came in, and these OIG agents are from Houston. So they came from Houston to Farwell. And if you don't know where Farwell is, do you know where Clovis, New Mexico is? It's just across the line from Clovis, New Mexico. It's about 800 miles from Houston. Those guys were up there the next day working the case. They went to the lady, they talked to her, she was very cooperative. She confessed everything she did from the time she was in kindergarten. She worked with them. They told her what was going to happen. We did file on her. But before it went to court, her family got together and the $3,800 was sent back to the district. When she pleaded guilty, she received 1 year's probation. But since she cooperated as well as she did with OIG went to the judge and asked that if this lady in that 1 year's probation stayed perfectly clean, that her record be cleared. The lady went to work. Of course, she was not working for the district anymore, but she did go to work for the probation office. And she stayed clean for that year. After that year, her record was cleared, and she is still working for the probation office. That is the one case that we have had that the person was totally acceptable of what happened. She admitted to it. She made the investigation real easy, and we worked with her on this one. Okay, the next case is just a little bit different.
How did she get it?
How she did it? I think probably on this particular case, there was an extra check or two written for salaries or for supplies that she got, put it through the board signed it, and then there was no bills, or she could not prove that the money was actually owed to her. And once she was asked about it, she did come back and admit to it. Now, I'm sorry, Mike. It's yours. Or the directors. Okay, now the next one is going to really get you. It involves the lady over about a 4 or 5 year period stole $80,000 from a district. All right, in this particular case, the way she did this was between meetings. She would go to a director outside of a board meeting and ask him to sign a check. And we've got a bill that has to be paid to a seed company, or we've got a bill that needs to be paid for this or for that. And a director would sign it. She would take it to another director outside of the board meeting and get him to sign it. Or she would forge the second signature on the check. She would make out the check to herself, take it to the bank, and cash it. There was several months in there, she was only supposed to get one check a month. There were several months in there, she got anywhere from 8 to 10 checks made out to herself and would cash at the bank. The board of directors never looked at a bank statement. They never checked their financial records during their board meeting. And the only way they found this out was her audit was late. The field rep that was taking that particular district started questioning, and we found out that she did this. Now the kicker on this one is the chairman of the board was the president of the bank she was cashing the checks at. The lady knew when each teller was coming to work. You know, one week during noon, there'd be this teller. The next week, there'd be this teller. On Thursday, there was this one. She was smart enough to go through, and she was cashing those checks with a different teller. She was doing it at noon when she knew the chairman of the board wasn't going to be there because he was off to lunch. And this went on. And they wound up with an $80,000 loss. All right, the other kicker on this one is the board of directors, one of the directors' son-in-laws was a Texas Ranger. Of course, they were embarrassed about losing that type of money. So instead of contacting us, or they contacted us, we told them we wanted to use OIG. They insisted we use the Texas Rangers. Of course, we're going to, at that time, we would work with the districts. Texas Rangers does have the authority. They called the Texas Rangers in. They prosecuted that case within 3 weeks. They took her to trial within 3 weeks. She got a 10-year probated sentence plus restitution. The lady had been on drugs. She got pregnant within the first 2 or 3 years of her probation period. She went back to a state judge. State judge said, hey, sorry, you got pregnant, you're a good lady, we're going to let the rest of this go. She did not have to finish her 10-year probation. The district did not get all of their restitution. This is the last time that I hope that we use the Texas Rangers and go through the federal system rather than through the state system. And what happened here, and in any case that you have fraud or embezzlement, you guys are bonded. You have $5,000 or $10,000 bond on each individual director plus your employees. Whenever you find this out, you need to notify your bonding company that there is a potential of fraud. Be careful how you word that whenever you're talking to them to begin with, because until it goes through the court system, you cannot say fraud did occur. There's a potential of fraud. The bonding company, when they pay off, will pay the district the $10,000. That $10,000 belongs to the state of Texas. It goes in your state account because it's a requirement of the state that you were bonded. The majority of this money that they lost was out of their trust funds. Their trust funds was not reimbursed in any way. Any restitution that that lady or whomever gives back to the district, that restitution, the initial $10,000 goes to the bonding company. So if she gave back $10,000 worth of bond money, it all goes back to the bond company before you as a district start getting a penny out of this. So be extremely careful on that. The next case was a $40,000 case. The lady was basically what happened on this particular case is, and the district thought they were looking at their financial records, but what happened on this one, her husband owned the grocery store in town. And after a board meeting, when the board was going to go to an association meeting, the state meeting, going to do some traveling, whatever, which was a legitimate expense, what the board did was write out a check for $500 worth of travel. The lady said, I'll take it over to the grocery store, I'll cash it, I'll bring you back the cash. Before it got taken to the grocery store, it was, instead of a $500 check, it was a $1,500 check. The grocery store cashed it because her husband owned the grocery store. She brought the $500 back. Never showed up on the financial statements that she gave to the deal. The board was not checking their bank statements. And she wound up with roughly $40,000 out of that one. Now this particular lady, OIG investigated it. She received 1 year in federal prison, 10 years probation, plus restitution. And I believe this happened about 8 years ago. And as of And I haven't checked this past year, but this time last year, the district had received approximately $3,000 of the restitution back above what the bond paid. So the district is still out quite a bit of money on this, around $27,000. Okay, the next case that we prosecuted with OIG was about a $4,000 case, but the kicker on this one was it was identity theft and credit card abuse. You, as a district director, sometimes will receive a credit card application because of the position you're in. It will go to that district office because these credit card companies don't care where they send the application. They want the application sent, they want it filled out, and they want your business. She filled out a credit card application on one of the directors. She received a credit card. It had a credit limit of $25,000. She ran it up to $25,000. This went on for 2 years. The only way that we found out about this was she failed to make a minimum payment. The director got a letter from the credit card company, wanted to know why he hadn't paid his bill, because he was a co-applicant, because his name was on it originally. And so that is the way we found out about it. As far as the money is concerned, the district had just built a new building. They did not have a track record of how much money the district had ought to be getting in. So there was money going out that she was paying herself for claiming technical assistance or different things, and the district was signing the checks. You know, they had a positive bank statement. They had more money than they had ever had in their life. They did not realize what was going on. All right, this lady she was really kind of a hard case, really, whenever you get down to it. She had been divorced. She had a boyfriend. And when she went to trial, she got 1 year in prison. The judge asked her if she wanted to be in a town close to where her children were, or if they wanted, she wanted to be sent away someplace. Well, her boyfriend happened to be living in Dallas, so she asked to go to Dallas and not stay locally where her kids could see her. And so she got 1 year in prison, 10 years probation, plus restitution of the $4,000 back to the district. Now, when you get credit card abuse or credit card fraud, that is worked through the Secret Service and the FBI. They did not want to come in on that small of a case, so that's why we went with OIG, and we got her on the $4,000 for the district. Those are the 4 that we have prosecuted. We have a 100% prosecution rate. We intend to continue with 100%. If anything happens, we will prosecute. We will hopefully send you to jail or give you probation. There was one other case down in Southwest Texas that just before a local board meeting, the secretary had everything laid out. Another person happened to come into the office. He went back, he got the bank statement, the routing number, and the bank statement numbers off the checks. They printed the checks. They had a check for $4,999 written out to an individual. The check was cashed in Dallas. The man had a residence in Chicago. OIG tracked him to Chicago. That turned out to be a false address. They did track him to Arkansas, but in the meantime, since the check was $49.99, the bank's insurance paid the district back, so they were held harmless. OIG dropped the case after that because the district did get their money back. Okay, the other 2 cases, and these are still being investigated. On those, they were handwritten checks. The amounts were like $52. When they went through the bank, it was like $1,052. The bank statements were never given to the board members. They had no idea what was in their account. The other one was a board that really thought that they were looking after everything. They were getting their bank statements every month, but they were internet bank statements. On an internet bank statement, you can go in and change the totals on those and write those things out the way you want to. This particular person allegedly, since it's under investigation, it's allegedly, this person has, was sending money like to DirecTV for her own bills and to different places using the internet to send stuff. But whenever the bank statement came in, she took those off, changed the bottom number. The district never saw a printed bank statement other than the internet bank statement. Check those. Never accept an internet bank statement unless there is a barcode on it, and then you can see where 3 holes are punched on the left-hand side. So anyway, I'll hurry up and get this over with. Look at your bank statements each month. Make sure they're the original bank statements. Check the signatures on all the checks to make sure they're legitimate. Check your balances and bills from prior months. Kendra went over this. Get you a folder. Put in there this month's financial statement. Keep that folder. Next month, put the next one on top of it. That way you directors at your board meetings can go through and flip and look at everything from month to month to month for your entire year. So you'll know what you've got. Do your bank statements the same way. But also sign those, put an initial on them, put a mark on them someplace that's not obvious, that you as a director know that you have signed that, so that somebody can't come in there and take all those out and change them before next month. So make sure you do that. Do not sign checks outside of a meeting. Protect your bank statement numbers. And I highly recommend you get an outside CPA or a third person to audit your books. This not only protects that individual that is the secretary that's working for you, protects you as a board member. How many of y'all have your laptops? District laptops. How many of you do not have a district laptop? There is money available to the end of this fiscal year that the state board will help purchase those laptops and printers. If you do not have one, get it. Get a Quicken, QuickBooks, whatever. Put on there. Keep all of your financial records on that laptop. I highly recommend you print your checks. Don't handwrite checks, because once it goes through that computer, OIG can pull off of there anything, any change, and tell you exact time, date, and when that happened. So print your checks. Again, use a CPA or a third party to do it. And I think that I'm going to close. I've got 3 slides I want you to look at. We will, if that has happened, you will be arrested. And then you will go to court. And then you will wind up in prison. So, and that's not, we're not threatening, we're just telling you what we will do. So if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to discuss. Yes, sir.
You mentioned other people mentioned using QuickBooks, but I told NRCS USDA is not going to QuickBooks.
That is why we're telling you, get a district computer. Take everything off the NRCS computer. So do not put anything on NRCS computer. It is not NRCS's business what your financials are. It is not any of their business what you do locally. Just remember, you are not an NRCS board. You are a subdivision of the state of Texas. You've got 2 separations there, even though we office in the same building. And because we office in the building, OIG or the federal marshals have the authority or the jurisdiction.
On average, how often do y'all have an infraction that needs to be inspected?
Up until the last 2 cases popped up since October, it had been probably 3 years, 4 years. And they seem to come in spurts. We'll have, if we have 1, we usually have 2 or 3 at the same time, and then we might wait a year or 2, and then it happens that way. we were hoping we had it pretty well under control and that this didn't happen, and then one popped up, I think, during October, and then we had another one about a month ago. So, and it's because, look at your stuff, take care of your business. Make sure that what you have in front of you is legitimate and it's an actual bank statement. And even if your bank statement comes after your board meeting and they printed off an internet bank statement, keep a copy of it. Make sure the mailed bank statement is attached to that to make sure it is correct and approve it at your next board meeting. Yes, ma'am.
What are the audit costs and what would you kind of suggest, since we do a financial statement?
Okay, up in my area, I've got one CPA, and we cannot recommend an individual CPA. But I've got a CPA that does those for $750 to $900, maybe $1,100, depending on what the business, if they own their building or whatever. But somewhere between $750 and $1,100 every year. That CPA goes through those books, checks with the state to make sure how much technical assistance you receive, matching funds, everything. And everything has to be to the penny on that CPA. And that CPA has caught 2 of those fraud cases. And it would probably be better, I would recommend, instead of using a local CPA, because there are certain rules and regulations when you start doing a governmental audit. Maybe there is one CPA in a 5 or 6 or 7 county area that will do all of those. And then that way, when they educate themselves, they are spreading that cost over several people instead of just one district. Because they're going to charge you $100 to $200 an hour for every hour they spend educating themselves. You might spend 2 hours doing your books, but 5 hours education, so you're going to be charged for 7 or 8 hours. So if they can spread that over more people and use the same one every year.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Let's give him a hand. You did a great job.